Hey everybody, welcome to the Fantasy Players Club. I'm your host, Levi the Heartbreak Kid Valentine, at Levi_Valentine on Twitter. Joining me are my co-hosts, Brent Hud Hikes. Follow him at Brent Hikes, Heikes on Twitter, and Trevin the Baby Maker Cremosta, whose tweets are still too hot for your eyes.
I think you have to change my nickname, Levi.
Why?
Because I should be the Olympic champion now.
Well, you and me are Olympic champions. Brent did not qualify for this year's Beer Olympics, so maybe next time, Brent.
Did you guys tie or something, or what?
We're on the same team.
Oh, it's team events.
Yeah. Trevin to get the most valuable drinker award, so I bet Liz was so proud of that.
I think. Yes, she was. Thank you. As a team effort, though, if I could give it to everybody on my team, I would.
We all got trophies, so we'll have to show you those sometime, Brent. But yeah, it was a fun Saturday. Me and Trevin drank way too much beer. Trevin passed out on the living room floor, so yeah, went about like you'd expect.
Better than expected, I'd say.
Name off a couple of the games you guys played.
We did a couple of the traditional ones like beer pong and what else did we do? We did
beer soccer where you throw it at the ball. Flip cup,
yeah. Beer, you mean beer ball where you throw it at the can? Is that what you were
I called it
about?
beer soccer when I was in college parties, but yeah.
Well, either way.
Have you guys ever played caps where you sit across and you just throw bottle caps and cups?
No, I have not.
That's a pretty fun game. I played that a lot in college.
Yeah, we did Civil War. If you've ever played that, it's kind of like beer pong. There's our trophy. Trevin got it.
Nice. Cool.
And my medals.
Cool.
It's a little tall to put on shelves, though, Levi. I'm not complaining. It's a really cool trophy. I just haven't found a shelf for it yet.
Yeah, probably try the mantle in the living room. That'll work.
Yeah, here we go. That'll fit there.
Yeah, it was a good time. I think everybody had fun. Some probably had some regrets about how much they drank, but you live and you learn.
And you forget those lessons next time around.
Yep. How would you rate my chugging skills?
They're dynamite. It's really hard to describe how good you were at chugging.
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty proud of that.
Was it an Aaron Rodgers chug?
Oh no, it was more like the Bakhtiari level.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Nice job, Levi.
Yeah, we have a thing throughout the event. You can challenge people to do a chug at any time, and the winner gets a point for their team. And it's limited to 1 per hour, so nobody can just get totally screwed up. Yeah. But yeah, didn't lose any of those, and we start with an opening chug where everybody drinks a beer, and the first team down wins, and we won that. So
cool
success. But fellas, football is back. Training camps are open. We got real news to get to. The Aaron and Rodgers saga has finally reached its conclusion, and I got to give a hat tip to Trevin. And I can't remember if you had that too, Brent, that Rodgers would be back in Green Bay this season.
I've questioned a lot, but yeah, I got to give the hat tip to Trevin on this one.
Good work, Trevor. You nailed that one.
Yeah, I never really wavered. This is always how I thought it would go.
Yeah. So he's back with Green Bay for at least one more year. They negotiated some concessions, including the 2023 year in his contract, which was the last one. His current deal would be voided with no tags allowed in the future. Packers would agree to review his situation at the end of the season, which I'm guessing means he's gone if he wants to be. His contract would be adjusted with no loss of income to give the Packers more cap room now, and then they would put in place mechanisms to address his issues with the team. And in his press conference today, he provided a pretty detailed timeline, which essentially could be summarized with his quote that he said, "I just wanted to be involved in conversations that affect my ability to do my job." Don't we all, Aaron? Don't we all? What'd you guys make of that whole situation and everything he said today?
It's not getting to the NBA level where players can actually have say in where their future is in the NFL yet, just because the franchise tag really limits that for any player. But we are seeing a couple players now get to be able to say they're not allowing franchise tags at the end of their contract. So I don't think we're too far away of players actually being able to have more control where they go. I know Tom Brady in his last year with the Patriots didn't have a franchise tag option, and now with Aaron Rodgers. So this is how I thought this would go, but it doesn't look like we're too far away of teams or players actually having some say.
It was a good press conference. I liked a lot of the things that Rodgers said. I mean, it's kind of what we all thought. But I will say he is kind of high on himself a little bit for not making.
He's the MVP, Brett.
He's the MVP, but he hasn't made a Super Bowl in over 10 years now, and I don't know. He's got to back it up this year and not just win the MVP and maybe go to the Super Bowl too.
If he doesn't do that, it's a failure.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen this a little bit in recent years, Trevin. We saw it again with Xavier Howard demanding a trade and not feeling like he's appreciated by the Dolphins today. My favorite team, the Dolphins. So hopefully they can get their issues worked out. But yeah, it certainly seems, especially at the quarterback level, like we're starting to see those players realize they have a little more power than maybe they did in the past, and trying
some of them getting some no trade clauses too.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to the rookies and Eli Manning and forcing his way out of San Diego and some things like that in the past. But this is kind of a new evolution here with him and Deshaun Watson prior to all of his issues, kind of trying to use their influence to get out of their current situation and get to a new team.
You want to talk about the players? The really only player I want to talk about a little bit is Amari Rodgers with this news of he's demanding Randall Cobb come back. I thought Rodgers might be able to get that slot role with the Packers this year and maybe have in PPR leagues have some influence on a league, but Cobb looks like he's probably going to be that slot guy now. So there goes the dream of that, I think.
He's just going up and down for me. I'm really high on Rodgers one day and then I'm down on him the next day. It's just with this Cobb news, he does go down. I mean, a little bit, but I still like Amari Rodgers, but definitely Randall Cobb hurts him a little bit. And Randall Cobb's fantasy value just shot up too.
Yeah, they actually did get a deal done. I don't know if you guys saw that, Trevin, or not, but they're sending the Texans a 6th-round pick for Cobb, and the Texans are paying $3 million of his salary. So it's a done deal, and I am sad for Amari Rodgers. I was kind of intrigued by him and how he could do this year, and it looks like now he's at least going to have his playing time reduced, probably, if not substantially eliminated. So that was a whole disappointing thing out of this deal, because Cobb is not a difference maker at all. It's just Aaron Rodgers trying to get something. So
yeah.
Can we make some very early predictions on where Rodgers plays the next year, 2022?
Yep. Where do you think?
Buccaneers.
Spicy. So you think Tom's retiring?
Yep, that's my early prediction.
I'll say Browns. I still like that.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit of a spicy one. I feel like Denver's the favorite that everybody expects at this point.
You can say it if you want to and not be exciting.
Where I really want to see him is Carolina.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They seem like they really want to trade for somebody, so this would potentially be their opportunity to try to woo him. And that offense is certainly set up for success, I think. The defense and maybe the offensive line a little bit is where they'd have to improve, I think, to entice him to try to come there.
Honestly, there's not many teams that wouldn't rather have Rodgers in their current option right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only like 6 that they shouldn't be talking about what they'd give up for him, I think.
I can't believe you didn't predict the Raiders.
I was trying to give an honest prediction. If this comes up next year, I want to be right on it.
Yeah. Well, you got this one right, so congrats, buddy. I was skeptical, but it turns out you were right.
Add it to my list, add it to my trophies.
Yeah. And our second headline today, New Orleans Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas underwent ankle surgery in June and could miss this time at the start of the season as a result. He's 28, and he was plagued by the ankle injury throughout last season. Terrestrial Takes correspondent Adam Schefter previously reported that he was expected to undergo surgery to repair the torn deltoid and other injured ligaments in his ankle. It's not really clear, though, why he had surgery so late in the offseason to cause him to miss the start of this season. So, Brett, as someone who recently drafted Michael Thomas in a startup, give me your reaction to this.
Well, Michael Thomas, he is a very good receiver. But if it's a redraft, I'm definitely staying away from him this year. Especially, he's supposed to. I read something. He was supposed to get that surgery like in March or something, and then he gets it in June, 3 months later. I don't know. It's kind of reminds me of that whole Scottie Pippen deal back in the 90s where he decided to get surgery a month or two before just so he can take the first couple months off. And I'm not saying he did that, but I mean, Michael Thomas is going to have the first couple months off of the season. So, but I'm staying away from him. Because I don't know if he's going to be fully healthy this year, if he's going to fully recover from it. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. I don't know his contract situation, but he might be demanding a trade. I mean, I'm sure he's probably not going to be big fans of Winston or Taysom Hill at all. So I don't know. But he is a good wide receiver.
Yeah. His contract that you alluded to, Brent, he's pretty well locked in for at least next year. He's got a dead cap of $22.7 million next year. That drops to 13 and then 5, which would be his age 31 season before he's an unrestricted free agent. So looks like he's going to be in New Orleans for at least next year.
So with me being a dynasty owner of him, do you think I should try to sell him?
I think you have to hold. I think right now you're not going to get a fair value for him.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I think his value is probably likely to go down anyway, just with him being 28 and going on 29. And now you've got the injury that he's coming back on top of that. And you have a lot of uncertainty there at the quarterback situation that you mentioned too, Brent, going forward. So I like Michael Thomas as a player, but from a dynasty perspective, it's just hard to see things getting a lot better until he's actually back on the field and performing from a value perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just hold on to him, see what happens.
Yeah. Trevin, what would you do?
Well, I guess I'll just spoil mine now, but he's in my dynasty sell when we get to the categories here because I don't like his situation with these quarterbacks. He works all the underneath routes. He's the best in the league at the slants and the hitches and stuff. And that was with Drew Brees, maybe the most accurate quarterback ever thrown it to him. And so it sucks that this injury happened because I was already going to be a sell, and now you're really going to be hurting for value. But I don't trust what he's going to have the next couple of years, especially with these quarterbacks there in the Saints. He actually, with Taysom Hill starting those 4 games last year, when he did play, he had 12 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets, and 8 targets. 9-4, 9-8 for catches. So he didn't do bad and almost 20 points a couple of those games. But I don't think he's going to be that wide receiver 1 again. And I don't know. It looks like week 7 is the best case scenario for coming back this year.
He did have some of his better games last year with Hill at quarterback. I just don't see Hill or Winston as the New Orleans Saints quarterback in 2022. So I really do think it's going to be somebody else. I don't know who, maybe Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know. We will see.
Yeah, it's just so hard to sell him right now, like I said, just for those reasons. But I don't know if it gets any better. There's just a lot of questions there, kind of like you guys alluded to.
And that's kind of why I didn't have him as my sell. Yes, I know that his value is down quite a bit, and I thought about having him as my dynasty sell and even redraft fade, but I mean it's going to be hard to sell him.
Yeah,
go ahead.
You're not going to get. I mean, you're not going to like the value you're getting back for him, but he's never going to be at those highs he was at before. And I would rather somebody else wait on him, I guess.
If you are trying to go in this year, if Brent, if you are competing for a championship, I could see certainly the case to try to sell him to someone who's a year away or has an injury or something of their own, and they're okay buying on a player like that, and you're giving you a guy that'll help you this year. But I'd probably be more inclined to just wait it out if I can, because it's not like it's one of those like a Cam Akers where you don't know if he's going to come back the same. I mean, while everything we've seen and heard about this, it seems like he has a pretty good chance of making a full recovery, and he still will be 29. So it's not like he's way past the age apex at that point. But yeah,
mine's not. My biggest case isn't even his age. It's just he doesn't have Drew Brees throwing to him anymore, and he's going to be maybe not 100% anymore, and that was his biggest factors.
What if they got Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, then I would have missed out if I sold him out. But
that'd be an interesting landing spot for him. They got a pretty solid team still. But Trevin, you alluded to it. We're talking a little bit about the NFC South already, so we might as well hop into the main event. And for tonight's main event, we are previewing that NFC South. So we've got the Bucks, the Falcons, the Panthers, and those Saints that we already discussed a little bit. Before we get to this year's picks, I want to quickly recap last year when we had our friend Colin Churchill come on and for this episode. Brent, you probably had the best dynasty buy of all of us with Calvin Ridley, who looks like a pretty solid choice. Colin went with DJ Moore, and I had Rob Gronkowski. Dynasty sell, I had Julio Jones. Brent, you had Chris Godwin, and Colin also had Julio Jones, which looks like a pretty good pick in hindsight, although he is getting some buzz with that move to Tennessee. Dynasty stash, this was probably my best pick of all of them. I had Russell Gage, and I got a lot of crap from you and Colin for that pick last year, but he had some pretty good games to start off the season, and this year he looks like he's going to be in a pretty good position as a potential number 2 receiver in that offense, depending on what Kyle Pitts ends up doing. So feel pretty good about that one in hindsight. Brent, you had Taysom Hill as your dynasty stash, which, of course, famously, he got you a lot of crap as well and worked out okay also. And then Colin had Adam Troutman, who looks like he could make some noise this year, particularly sans Michael Thomas in this receiving game. Redraft sleeper, I had Matt Ryan. Brent, you had Emmanuel Sanders. Colin had Hayden Hurst. So no home runs there by any means. And then a redraft fade, I had Todd Gurley. Brent, you had Jared Cook. And Colin had Mike Evans. So I think Colin swung and missed there. But you and Jared Cook had a decent season, but not amazing. Todd Gurley obviously is pretty much done at this point. So those were our picks from last year. Let's see if we can improve on them this year. Brent, who is your dynasty buy?
My dynasty buy, it's Antonio Brown. I'm kind of looking at the same way that you looked at Rob Gronkowski last year with your dynasty buy. You can get Antonio Brown at a pretty good deal. It might seem kind of wild to buy a 33-year-old wide receiver right now in Dynasty, but it is Antonio Brown, and I do think he has 3, maybe 4 good years left in him. And when I say good years, maybe like a wide receiver too. I mean, the wide receiver 1 years might be over, but I do think he can be a good wide receiver too. Towards the end last year, he was one of Tom Brady's favorite targets out of that great group of wide receivers and tight ends they have. He had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 regular season games. He had another 2 touchdowns in the playoffs. He had in that week 16 game, I think he had like 15 targets in that game. So he's getting a lot of targets too. And I'd like to think now after a good year or two, he seems to have his head on straight and he's ready to play some football and finish out his career on a good note. I know he's on a 1-year contract right now, and after a good year this year, I really do think he'll get another multi-year contract, maybe another 2 or 3 year contract, probably somewhere else. But if Tom Brady wants to stick around for another year, maybe he'll stick around Tampa Bay. So, Antonio Brown.
Trevin, any thoughts on Antonio Brown?
I actually like it, and I'm not even saying for past this season. I think he's so cheap right now that I think it is a good option. And that's if you buy him thinking it's just for this year, and then if he adds anything more to that, that's gravy. Because I think you can get him for a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick in Dynasty right now. And he did, like you said, towards the end of last year, he was doing really well. He started 4 games last year, had 45 receptions, 480 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he played in a total of 8, but he started 4. So I like him. I think he's going to put up some numbers this year, and I think you can get him so cheap that I like it, Brent.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm going to avoid getting into it too much at this point. 1, because you guys have covered it pretty well, and 2, because I'm going to talk about him a little more later. So nice, Brett. Trevin, who's your dynasty buy?
So my dynasty buy is DJ Moore. I know that he's pretty high priced right now, and it's not like he's a sleeper or anything like that, but I still think he's undervalued. I think he's very good. I'm not a fan of Sam Darnold, but the Panthers organization must like something about him because they brought him there. They didn't get another quarterback there. I think they have a good enough offense for whoever's at quarterback's going to help out DJ Moore. So if Darnold is the guy, then DJ Moore is about to explode. And if they get Rodgers or somebody, if they move on, I think they're going to move on pretty quickly from Darnold if he doesn't work out this year. So I think he's going to have a good quarterback in the 2022 season, no matter what. But he's just been really good. He's only, 24? Finished last year as wide receiver 23. That was mostly because he just didn't get the touchdowns. He only had 4 on the year on 66 receptions for almost 1,200 yards. So I think he is getting priced at around the wide receiver 13, 14 range, and I think he should be up in the 7, 8, 9 range.
Yeah, he's currently going as wide receiver 15 in Dynasty. His value has certainly dipped compared to what it was at this time last year, but I like the pick from a Dynasty perspective, Trevin. I think he's really going to be a stud that you can count on for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I'm not maybe a hair less optimistic about this upcoming season just because of the Sam Darnold factor. But I think longer term, the value is certainly going to be there. Brent, I know as a DJ Moore lover, you've enjoyed giving me a hard time over the past year or 2. So give us your thoughts on DJ Moore.
I was going to say that, gosh, I'm surrounded by a couple of DJ Moore lovers, but I mean, his value has dropped a little bit from last year, and I think that's what he is. I don't want to say that he's a bad receiver because he's not. He is a good receiver. I don't think he's going to get you wide receiver 1 numbers. Definitely good wide receiver 2 numbers. And Sam Darnold is his quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how he does with a good quarterback, though. I mean, you are talking dynasty, so he is a young guy. So who knows? His next quarterback could be a good one, and he can make DJ Moore great. So it's not a bad pick, Trevin.
Yeah, he's only, like you mentioned, Trevin, 24, and he's already got a wide receiver 12 and a wide receiver 23 finish on his resume. So wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 a year before he turned 24 isn't too shabby.
Yeah, he's got 2 years of just under 1,200 yards.
Yeah. I like that pick. I will go next. Mine's somewhat related to yours, Trevin, in that mine's Terrace Marshall. Also in that Carolina offense. Marshall's currently going as wide receiver 50 in startup drafts, and as the 16th pick in rookie drafts, go wide receiver 6 among rookies. Honestly, I think he's better than Robbie Anderson, and he's going to take his job this year. And even if they split time, Robbie Anderson's a free agent after the season, and they're not re-signing him, I don't think, which will clear the way for Marshall and Moore to be the clear top 2 receivers in Carolina. He checks a lot of boxes as a prospect. Coming out of high school, he's a 5-star on the 24/7 composite. Broke out as a sophomore on that national championship team for LSU while playing with Chase and Jefferson, and then showed out without them in 2020. He's an early declarer, had an early breakout, great speed, great burst in his testing at the combine, great size at 6'2", 205 pounds. I mean, he has it all, really. And he's being reunited with Joe Brady, who clearly likes him a lot. And he's going to an offense that I expect to be significantly better with the return of Christian McCaffrey this season, which should help both Terrace Marshall and DJ Moore, to your point, Trevin. I'm not 100% sold on Sam Darnold, like I just mentioned, but I do think he'll be okay from a fantasy perspective for this team in 2020. And I think they'll make a move to get a better quarterback in 2021, whether that's via trade, come on, Aaron Rodgers, or in the draft. So you put all that together, and I think this is the cheapest you're going to get Marshall for a long time. And you could probably say that about DJ Moore too. So I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Marshall had a T. Higgins like rise over the next year. And I think he's a player you're just going to want to own in Dynasty long term.
I love Terrace Marshall. I just traded for him in that Campus to Canton League. Like you said, everything about him you like, except for he had some injuries last year. And that's really all the bad things you can say. Even being the third receiver this year, he had 70% of his snaps on the outside in that national championship year. Then in 2020, he did most actually in the slot. So he can line up all over, even if he's the third option there. As long as he's not injured, he's going to be awesome, I think.
You make some good points, Levi, and I never really thought of him as a buy, but I mean, especially when one of your college coaches drafts you, when that coach moves on to the NFL, having that connection there, that just shows that coach believes in that player, and I just think that, I mean, with Marshall's, I mean, he's used to Joe Brady's offense, and yeah, he makes some really good points, and I would not be surprised if he does take Robbie Anderson's job, and that'd be one heck of a buy too if that happens.
Yeah, it seems pretty likely. I like the way things are setting up.
And that's what I just really like Rule and Brady there. They last year had Bridgewater, who was average for most of the year and bad for some of the year. They still had three receivers in the top 25, I think, in PPR rankings. So even with bad quarterback play, I know McCaffrey was out, and that's where a lot of the targets are probably going to go to him this year. But I think they've shown that you can still have productive wide receivers on that, even if they have a bad quarterback there.
Absolutely. Trevin, you kind of mentioned your dynasty sell already. Was there anything else you want to add on Michael Thomas before we move on?
Not really. I think we are figuring out a little bit about myself is these guys that have some injuries, nagging injuries. I just don't want to be the guy holding them and waiting for them to turn around a dynasty. If it's going to be a long time, I will let somebody else wait for that. It was kind of the same thing with Akers. I know that Akers' injury is a lot worse, but let somebody else check the injury reports every day. I'd rather move on, I think.
If you are rebuilding, it is a place where you can get some value because it doesn't matter if they actually help your team by not playing this year, and then you get the boost of them coming back next year. So like last year, if you were a rebuilding team and you had some piece, or a team that was maybe at the end of your run and you had some pieces to trade and you could get someone like Saquon Barkley, I think that's a pretty strategic move to make in Dynasty. And Trevin, you may have to worry about that this year. We'll see.
Are we giving advice for rebuilding teams? Or are we trying to win some leagues here?
You can't win it every year. So sometimes you got to rebuild whether you like it or not. You'll see. I'll go with my dynasty sell next. I have Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is currently going 36th overall in DLF's July Superflex ADP. He's going as tight end 2 in that ADP, behind only Travis Kelce. He's going ahead of players like Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Swift, CD Lamb, and J.K. Dobbins. So I went to the DLF Trade Finder and I found some recent trades that I think you guys will be surprised by. So first we have Pitts and Michael Pittman for Brandon Ayuk and Noah Fant. So you upgrade from Pittman to Ayuk and only drop down to Fant and wide receiver. Pitts for Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, and then here's the kicker: first and second rounders in the 2022 draft and first and second rounders in the 2023 draft. Jeez. So 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and then some tight ends. Pitts and Mecole Hardman for Noah Fant and Chase Claypool. And then Pitts for J.K. Dobbins and Jerry Jeudy. So if you have a Pitts lover in your league who wasn't able to get their hands on him in the draft, or if it's a Devy league and you had Pitts already or something, you can get quite a haul for him.
I'm going to surprise you, Levi. I absolutely love Pitts. I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid. You can finish here. I just had to say on those trades, I would have taken the Pitts side every time. So finish off your spiel and then get to it.
Here's what it comes down to. I like Pitts too. I love the skill set. I love the situation he landed in. I think he's going to be a very good player. But will he be the next Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle? Because where he's going, he pretty much has to be for it to pay off. And I think there's a bigger chance that his price reflects then I think there's a better chance than his current price reflects that he won't turn out to be one of those top 3 tight ends. And even if he does, we're almost guaranteed to have to wait a year or two to find out. So to give you guys a little background, and we've talked about this to some extent on the show before. So Travis Kelce took until his 4th season to finish as a top 5 tight end, finishing first and averaging 14.8 points in 2016. George Kittle finished as tight end 3 in his 2nd season and averaged 15 points. And of course, Darren Waller had a winding path to becoming a top 3 tight end. He finished as tight end 5 and averaged 13.6 points in 2019, which was his 5th year after being drafted. And the other thing is, and Trevin, you've touched on this before, these top tight ends in the draft are rarely these top tight ends in fantasy are rarely the ones who were going in the first round of the draft. Kelce was a 3rd rounder, Kittle a 5th rounder, Waller was a 6th rounder, and if you go back further, Gronk was a 2nd rounder, Zach Ertz was a 2nd rounder, and Jimmy Graham was a 3rd rounder. So you basically have to go back to Greg Olsen, who was the last first round tight end to consistently deliver top tight end finishes year after year, and he was the 31st pick in the draft in 2007. So it's not like he was a player who got nearly the capital that Pitts has. So bottom line, I like Pitts a lot. I think his most likely outcome is he's going to be cheaper a year from now than he is right now, because I think almost no matter what he does, unless he finishes as a top 3 tight end, people are going to be disappointed by his season with how much hype he's getting and where he's going. And so that, I think, could lead to him being cheaper a year from now than he is right now. And I think he's being significantly overvalued right now. So that's why he is my dynasty sell. Trevin, I would love to hear your argument for why you would spend 2 firsts and 2 seconds on Pitts.
We've talked about it a lot. I've just kind of flipped on my mindset of him that if you have him on your team, it's just going to be a lot of fun if he does even come close to this projection, especially if it's a dynasty where all these other top tight ends are approaching 30 and Kelce's turning 32 this year.
Do we play to have fun or do we play to win? I thought you just said
sometimes
we play to
you play
win.
to have fun, but if he is anywhere close to this projection, if he finishes top 5 this year, he's 21-22 compared to these 3 tight ends that are going to be approaching that age of decline. That's your tight end position is just set for the next 10 years when a scarcity position where you're just outperforming everybody else. And so I like it. So that I think you can actually go back to look at Evan Ingram, his rookie year, where he did have a lot of hype coming in. He was a top 15 pick and finished as a tight end 5 in PPR scoring in 2017. Now he's had injuries ever since, but that really wouldn't be that big of a disappointment for Pitts. I know you're saying he's looking at tight end 2 and completely destroying the league, but I've got Pitts in that dynasty league, and if he's finished at tight end 5, I'm pretty happy with it. And then you're just looking forward from there. But you go back to maybe the best rookie tight end.
Address your Evan Ingram point first. So yeah, Ingram, you just said if Pitts has a top 5 finish, you think you're set at that position for the next 10 years. Look what happened with Evan Ingram. Those people had the hit, and they probably thought they were set for the next 10 years. And then he's gone out and finished not probably as a tight end 1, if I don't have it in front of me, for any of his years since then. So just because he had the best season by a rookie in recent memory doesn't mean that he's a guarantee to keep providing that year after year. And if you look at Evan Ingram's rookie year, where he was number 4 tight end, he had 11.6 points, which was over 3 points behind 3.5 points behind Zach Ertz, and 4 points behind Kelce, and 6 points behind Rob Gronkowski. So yeah, the next one below him was 11.3. So you got an extra 0.3 points over Delaney Walker, who was the number 5 tight end that year. And there were just a whole bunch of them who were bunched in that 10, 11 point range. It's not like he was providing a lot of value over those number 5 through 8 tight ends, I guess is my point.
Yeah. And Ingram has also had injuries since then. And also he's playing with Danny Dimes instead of a competent quarterback. And that's just not the situation that he's walking into here. He's got Matt Ryan, who, you don't have to be a huge Matt Ryan fan, but he knows how to get guys the ball, and he's going to be the number 2 option walking in, lining up at wide receiver a lot of times. I just think it's such an advantage if he does hit to have him at your tight end.
Do we think Matt Ryan is there for much longer?
I don't even know what's his contract, isn't it? He's got a couple more years left, I think.
Yeah, he's got so he has 3 years left. I think he's there for this year and next year, and then I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone this age 38 season because his dead cap is $65 million this year and $40 million next year.
Yeah, he's probably gone after this year. My guess.
Or next year. Next year it's $40 million still, but either way, like I don't know, Trevin. He just has to become.
So Jeremy Shockey probably has the best rookie season in recent memory. He had in 2002. He played 15 games, had 74 catches, just under 900 yards, only had 2 touchdowns. If that stat line last year, he'd have been tight end 3. So I just think we're saying it's crazy that Pitts we're no number 2 dynasty tight end, but he just seems like a freak, and I'm happy to have him on a team, and it'd be really hard to get him away from me.
I would just rather trade down to a Hawkinson or a Fant or someone who I think has probably as much potential and get quite a haul on top of that. Fant was the highest or Hawkinson was the highest drafted tight end before Pitts beat him by 1 pick or 2 picks this year. It wasn't like there's this huge gap in their perception coming in. And Hawkinson has quite an opportunity in Detroit this year as pretty clearly the best receiving option in that offense.
So here's a little more dynasty theory. Do you just, when a guy gets high, like A.J. Brown is by a lot of metrics the 1, 2, 3 receiver for dynasty receivers. He's on, I think his best season he's finished so far as a wide receiver 9 or 10. You don't just trade him because you go, well, his price isn't ever going to be this high again.
Right.
That's the same as Pitts. His price might not be as high, but it's a lot of fun to have him on your team.
If he hits, that's the big thing. We've seen it from A.J. Brown at this point. We know that he is a certified.
I'm an A.J. Brown lover, but we haven't seen him finish as that 1, 2, 3 receiver.
Like overall, no.
Yeah, for a season.
But he's finished as a wide receiver 1 last year.
What was he? Wide receiver 10 overall? So if his price is that high, then the same thing you're saying is you should sell on A.J. Brown right now.
No, because A.J. Brown has shown it on the field that he is what we thought he was going to be, and Kyle Pitts has not even played a snap yet. And that's my whole point, is there's a lot more risk with Kyle Pitts that he's not going to be what we think he could be than there is with A.J. Brown. He's already shown it in back-to-back years.
But he hasn't shown what he's priced at, is what I'm saying.
I think that part of the price is his age, as opposed to just expecting him to finish as wide receiver 3. Brett, you've been awful quiet over there.
It was fun to listen to you guys. It was fun to listen to you guys argue about that. You guys are passionate about it. That's good. I like it. But you guys are arguing about Hawkinson, Fant, Jeremy Shockey, Evan Ingram, talking about how it takes so long for a tight end to become good, after the 3rd year, which is all understandable. But there's one problem there, is that Kyle Pitts doesn't actually line up as tight end. He hasn't done that in college very often, and I don't expect him to do that at Atlanta. Hayden Hurst is still going to be the tight end, the inline tight end at Atlanta. Kyle Pitts will be split out pretty much all the time. But with that said, my sell is also Kyle Pitts. It's just where he's getting drafted. It's just way too high for me. And I'm with Levi on this. I think I'd rather take my chances on a guy like Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, and instead of getting Kyle Pitts that high, especially number 2, and number 2 tight end in Dynasty, for the ADP. That's crazy. I'd much rather have Darren Waller and George Kittle instead of Kyle Pitts. So yeah, Kyle Pitts is my sell.
Yeah, have fun, losers.
It won't be as fun, Trevin. I'm sorry, but
you can get so much value for him. You can almost rebuild half your team just by trading away Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
versus having that one position.
Yeah, another point I want to bring up. I had this on my notes here. I know there might be some drafts that haven't done their rookie drafts yet, and it's kind of hard to do a dynasty sell on a rookie because you just probably drafted this guy not too long ago. If you haven't, and if you're sitting at like the 5th pick, the best thing for you to do, and Kyle Pitts is on the board, try to find that Kyle Pitts lever and trade back to like the 8th spot and pick up a guy like Javonte Williams or Devontae Smith or maybe Travis Etienne will fall that far. So there's plenty of other guys that you can get if you drop down a little bit later and try to get a little bit more for that Kyle Pitts pick at number 5.
I love the player, Trevin.
You're missing out on that tight end advantage. And I think this is going to be a throwing offense again. And so I think he's just going to hit the ground running. And I like that he's on my dynasty team.
There are certainly people out there who think like you and are willing to pay a ton for Kyle Pitts. So that's all I'm saying is I would try to find one of those people and I would take the value and the sure things on the other side. But the upside is certainly there.
Sounds like Brent's going to go with Hayden Hurst instead.
Oh, another first-round tight end pick.
No, I'm not.
All right, fellows. Dynasty stash. Mine is Marquez Callaway. With Michael Thomas out, why not take a shot on Marquez Callaway to carve out a role in this offense? Callaway's entering his sophomore season after going undrafted out of Tennessee last season. He's 6'1", 205, so he has the size you're looking for a receiver, and he also checks a few more boxes with an early breakout age, 62% dominator, 62nd percentile dominator rating during his college days, and 82nd percentile per score. He showed some flashes in limited playing time last year. His best game came against Carolina, Week 7. Played 70% of the snaps, had 10 targets, turned it into 8 receptions for 75 yards. Michael Thomas then returned from injury, and he saw his playing time dip. But when Thomas missed Week 16 and 17, Callaway was right back up there. Saw his playing time spike, got 4 targets in each of those games. So with Thomas potentially out for the first month or two of the season, I think we're going to see Callaway get a shot and potentially benefit here significantly. If Jameis is the quarterback, I really like it. If it's Taysom, I'm probably not as excited. Traquan Smith is an unrestricted free agent after the season, so I think Callaway is a guy you could potentially get off your waiver wire, stash him, who could provide some value this year and potentially into the future, depending on who they bring in this offseason.
I like the pick, Levi. I do. It's I own Callaway in a couple of my dynasties, and actually, I actually tried trading him to a few people, but I might have been asking for a little too much after I heard that Michael Thomas news. But yeah, I like him a lot if Winston's the quarterback, but not so much if Taysom Hill is the quarterback. So I like the pick.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good stash.
And I guess you can't. He might not even be a stash if Winston's the quarterback. So he can be a good guy that you might eventually start by week 4 or 5 if he's doing well with Winston.
Yeah, he could definitely be usable this season. Trevin, Greg says, "Aren't you the guy who hates rookie tight ends?"
I said I flipped.
And then I don't know. Does anybody have Russell Gage as a stash this year? Any thoughts on Russell Gage? He asked.
I like him. He could be the number 2 option there, especially if Pitts doesn't hit the ground running. I just thought his name might be ahead of putting him as a stash at this point.
I don't know. Between him and Zacchaeus, and they have a rookie that I like too. I can't remember his name. I just think those extra targets to those other guys will all be split up between them. But Russell Gage is definitely someone that you probably want to maybe roster late. I like Gage the most out of those other guys that I mentioned.
Brent, you're a Frank Darby fan?
Yeah, that's the guy. I like him. I do. I mean, not a lot, but I don't think he'll be much of a starter in the NFL, but he has a big opportunity this year, and I like guys that have opportunities, and if he takes advantage of it, he can be a good player for years to come.
Yeah, I think Gage has a chance to be the third option in that passing game behind Ridley and Pitts. It'll be interesting to see how they distribute the targets between him and Zacchaeus. I think Zacchaeus is probably going to play in the slot. So I like both of them as flyers. I think Gage is probably going to cost you a little more than Zacchaeus, but neither one's real expensive, even in Dynasty. So yeah,
Gage kind of quietly had 72 receptions and just under 800 yards last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was with Julio still there.
Yeah, although Julio did miss time with his injury. So, yeah, 110 targets. They just throw the ball so freaking much in that offense. And that's why I see, and I understand your optimism about Pitts, Trevin, because
nope, you can't switch
gone.
now. You can't switch now.
You can just get so much for him that I'd be really strongly considering trading. So
you'd be on the wrong side of this. That's fine.
It's very possible that next year we'll be sitting here and you're right and I'm wrong. All right. Trevin, who's your stash?
My stash is Tyler Johnson, wide receiver at the Bucs. He's going into his second year. He didn't have a lot to show for last year. Only had 12 receptions on the year, 14 games, 17 targets, and 2 touchdowns. But I just think he's going to be in a good position next year. He's probably not going to have a lot this year. Again, with they brought Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin back for one more year, it seems like. So depending on what happens next year, if they do bring in like Rodgers, they don't have Chris Godwin or Brown coming back, I think he could be in a really good position to be a starting receiver next year, 2022.
I almost picked him. I really like him. My fear is that either Brady doesn't retire or if they bring in somebody like Rodgers, that they'll just get a veteran free agent wide receiver that'll just continue to – they'll sign somebody who will play in front of him, kind of like they did with Antonio Brown and like they did with bringing back Chris Godwin. I was really excited for him going into last year, and then they did the whole Antonio Brown thing, and he just never really got a chance. And I'm just nervous that that's going to keep happening because as long as they can keep this team together and compete for Super Bowls. And I'm not entirely convinced, or not as confident, I guess, as you are, that Brady walks away after this year. I think he's going to play. He seems like he's going to play for as long as possible. And
yeah, and just to make it clear, that wasn't my prediction. No, that was kind of my Rodgers prediction. I don't really think Brady's going to retire after this year either.
Yeah, so I think that just makes it hard because as good as I think Tyler Johnson can be, I think there is a good chance that they just keep bringing in someone like an Antonio Brown or whoever to play in front of him.
And if Brady's back next year too, they're probably going to just keep the whole gang back together and try to get Brown and Godwin back. You're 44-year-old Brady at that point, and they're not going to go, here's all your new receivers.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think he's worth it for a stash. If things shake out that he does get into the starter role, you're going to be sitting pretty next year. Looking back on it, I liked his profile coming out of Minnesota. I didn't remember him going 5th round. That's a little later than I thought he'd went.
I did, just because there were a lot of huge fans of his based on his early breakout and his extremely high dominator rating, and he did not get the draft capital to go along with it, which sucks. And Trevin, he is under contract through 2023, so he'll probably be stuck there unless – that's the other thing with him that just kind of sucks, is it's not like he's getting out after next year if it doesn't work out. He's just kind of
mine was if the other guys leave. I didn't really think he'd go somewhere else.
Yeah, I was just adding a little more context. Brent, you like Tyler Johnson?
I do. Not as much as my stash, because I think either Trevin or I will be hitting pretty big on our stash. So my stash is Jalen Darden, their 4th round wide receiver pick from North Texas this year. So basically, in a way, it'll be kind of competition for Tyler Johnson. But Darden is a smaller guy, 5'9", 174 pounds. I really don't think he'll give you much this year, but with the reports from camp is that he's looking good. He's flashing. I think there was a player who talked about it. I think it might have been Gronk, but he said that he's going to be on the field this year, and we'll see him. So I guess we'll see. Maybe he's talking about preseason, but there's a lot of good wide receivers ahead of him, but still I'm not expecting much from this year. And some of the reports that I've read is a lot of those passes are coming from Tom Brady. So he's playing with Tom Brady. He's playing with the first team. The film that I looked at looked great. And I think the biggest benefit that you'll get from him will be not from this year, but from from next year, especially if guys. Trevin kind of brought it up, especially if like Godwin leaves or Antonio Brown leaves.
Yeah. I've kind of said my piece on how I think that wide receiver depth chart will play out the next couple of years. So that's the only thing that would scare me with him too. But
Yeah.
I mean, as a stash, I like the talent and I like his profile, Brent.
Yep, I agree.
So you think he leapfrogs Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, huh, Brent?
Do I think? I don't know. But it's a stash, and that's what you got to do with stash is to take chances. And I think if it does hit, it'll be some good value right there.
I think there is probably a pretty good chance one of those three gets cut and gets a chance to go somewhere else and potentially get on the field too. So that could be another way that it works out for him. I know you say he's been getting some camp buzz, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Brent, you did your stash. So now we're on to our redraft sleepers. Trevin, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I bent the rules on this one a little bit. It's definitely not a sleeper. It's just I did it more of a redraft buy, and this was going to be my chance to talk about Kyle Pitts. So my redraft buy is Kyle Pitts for all the reasons I said. I don't think it's out of line to say he's going to finish as tight end 2 or 3. I kind of listed the examples of how he's able to do that in this high-scoring offense. So I love having Kyle Pitts this year. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I don't want to miss out on being in on that fun.
Damn.
You know where he's going in redraft right now on ESPN's ADP?
Tight end 3, I believe. I just looked it up.
5.
Oh, see, even better.
Yeah, he's currently going 46th overall as tight end 5. I actually like him more as your sleeper there. He's not really a sleeper, but as your someone you're drafting there or targeting there. He's going behind Kittle, Mark Andrews, not in that order. So in order there, Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, Andrews, and Kyle Pitts, just ahead of Hawkinson.
So with him being a sleeper, I assume you probably like him more than Andrews. So you're probably picking him as a tight end 4.
Yeah.
Are you taking him 3rd?
Don't be crazy now.
Yeah. I'm
Are you
taking
kidding?
3rd.
Over Waller?
No, Waller's 2.
Over Kittle?
Over Kittle?
Yeah, over Kittle.
Not taking him over Waller, though?
No, I wouldn't take him over Waller. I think Waller's still going to be the first option. Oh, shit.
All right. I can go next. My redraft sleeper is Antonio Brown. Brown averaged 7.6 targets a game in the 8 games he played in 2020. So he finished 2nd among receivers in hog rate, which is targets per snap. Turn that into, like you mentioned, Brett, 45 catches, 483 yards, 4 touchdowns in only 8 games. 14.6 fantasy points a game, which was number 23 among receivers. So I think, Brent, you mentioned he could be a wide receiver 2 for a long time. That's what he was on a per-game basis last season. He did that while joining the team in the middle of the year, and he played only 1 game in 2019, which was his only game in 23 months before his first game back with the Bucs. So to say he was probably a little rusty is accurate. And for whatever reason, Tom Brady seems to love the guy. They have a rapport. We've seen elite receivers like Brown continue to be able to perform at a high level into their mid to late 30s, and I feel confident we could see that from him this year. Like you mentioned, Brandon, he hasn't had any off-field incidents this offseason, so that seems to bode well. He's currently going 110th overall as wide receiver 46 in the ESPN ADP. So we're expecting wide receiver 2 numbers, Brandon. I think he pretty easily outperforms that. That's 10th round value that you're spending, and you can get potentially usable starter on a week-to-week basis there. So I like him in redraft a lot. I like him in Dynasty too. Maybe not quite as optimistic as you, Brent, but in redraft, I think he's a smash where he's going.
Love it. Love the pick.
All right, Brent. Yeah. Who's your sleeper?
Well,
is it the Christian McCaffrey?
No, it's
no,
not.
Gio Bernard.
No, but I thought about it.
How did you not pick him for any of these categories?
I didn't. Well, let me explain this one. This might my next 2 might help explain it. My sleeper is Tom Brady. I don't need to say much about Tom Brady. People are drafting him as maybe like a late quarterback 1. Some people might have him as their backup or quarterback 2. But with this offensive line and the skill position players that he has this year, it could be a very special year for this team and Tom Brady, and their offense could explode. I'm talking he can get 45, 50 touchdowns this year. He can have a great year, and it could be one of his better fantasy seasons of his whole career, which sounds crazy because the guy's like old, but but I really do think there's a good chance he could be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy this year. So I really like Brady.
I like that pick, Brent. Trevin, any thoughts?
What did he finish last year, and what's his ADP this year?
He's currently going as quarterback 9. I'm not sure what he's going overall. Last year, I will look that up while you talk about him, Trevin.
Last year he finished as 8, so I don't know. That's kind of a line that it's tough for me to put him over any of the guys above him on ADP for ESPN right now. It's got Rodgers, Herbert, Wilson, then you get to Prescott, Jackson, Murray, Allen, Mahomes. So ahead of guys like Tannehill and Burrow and Hurts and Stafford, but it's tough for me to get past that next list of guys. So I think he's kind of properly rated there. And if I miss on Brady and I wind up with Tannehill or Burrow or Stafford, I'll be okay with that too.
Yeah, and I think
go ahead, Levi.
I think you're drafting him there and thinking that there's a good chance he could outperform that is kind of what I was looking at the sleeper as, and I like that approach, Brent. He's got Bruce Arians, a coach who loves to pass the ball. He had 40 touchdowns last year, though, so you're predicting a little bit of an increase from there. With the extra game, I don't think that's out of line, especially with how good we know this team is, and now that he's been there a year and built this rapport, and how well they seem to play together. The thing that I think could potentially hold it back a little is they're going to be so freaking good, especially on defense as well, that they may be in some games where they just kind of run the ball and let their defense dominate and melt the clock. So I could see that kind of limiting him, but I could also see it especially with his attitude and with Bruce Arians, where they just let that thing fly and and blow the doors off teams. So
yeah, I definitely thought about that too. But then I thought about gosh, no, they're gonna score. They're gonna try to score 50 points on some teams, and if that happens, I mean, Brady's gonna have a great year in fantasy. So
yeah, as will all of those receivers: Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown, Giovanni Bernard.
I think they could have 3 wide receiver 2s on their team.
All right. So do we need to talk about your next pick? I think you can go next because I think we've all done our sleepers. So just give us your next one, and then I want to hear how Gio didn't end up on one of these lists.
Well, I wanted to bring up. I mean, I could bring it up for Tom Brady, or I can bring it up for because we are on fades right now. Everybody's got their sleeper done.
Yep, redraft fade.
All right. Well, my redraft slate fade is Leonard Fournette. So, I'll bring up Gio Bernard right away. Gio Bernard, he's going to help Tom Brady out so much in the passing game with his pass blocking and his checkdowns. So that's another big reason why I'm thinking Tom Brady's going to have a great year. And Leonard Fournette in last year's Tampa Bay's team in the playoffs, I'd say their only weakness on that team was probably the running back position. Fournette, don't get me wrong, Fournette stepped it up in the playoffs and he played good. I'll give him that. He played good, and we call him Playoff Lenny for a reason. But let's be honest.
Lenny. Put some respect on that name.
But let's be honest. He wasn't very good during the regular season. 3.7 yards per carry. And he played better in the playoffs when Ronald Jones did get hurt. So Ronald Jones, he played through it some, but that wasn't the same Ronald Jones that we're used to. He was a three down back a lot of the times during the playoffs, and definitely the passing down back last year in the playoffs. And that's how his fantasy points were so good. But now that's not going to happen. Gio Bernard will be that passing down back. That takes Leonard Fournette's fantasy, points, a lot of his fantasy points away because he's not going to be in that position anymore. And Ronald Jones will now be healthy. And I think Ronald Jones is a better first two down back, like first down, second down back. So I think that kind of pushes Leonard Fournette back. I do think they need Fournette because it's always good to have 3 good running backs on, especially on a really good team. And especially with what we've seen out of Ronald Jones, he might not be healthy, and they might need Fournette later on in the year. But like I said, the odd man out for now is going to be Leonard Fournette. So I do think that you should stay away from him in all formats, even Dynasty. So, all right, butcher me, guys.
What if the odd man out is Gio?
It's not going to be Gio.
I
I guarantee you that. You think it's Gio is going to be odd man out?
I think Gio's odd man out.
Wow.
I wouldn't be shocked if Gio's not on the team.
All right. I mean, if we're talking about maybe cutting backs at the end of preseason, I think the back that would get cut will be Fournette. I mean,
that's a bold prediction. Not Keyshawn Vaughn.
Am I predicting Gio. That though? I'm talking about those 3 backs though.
Okay, those 3.
If there was a back to get cut, it would be Fournette. And I'm not predicting that they will do that. I think they should keep all 3. But if
you think they're cutting the guy who led their backfield on the Super Bowl run last year?
Yeah, he led their backfield in fantasy points.
He in the playoffs. In the playoffs. But he did lead them in the playoffs. He had 4 touchdowns, I think.
I mean, if you're looking for the weak point of the Buccaneers, wouldn't you say it's the running back position last year in the playoffs?
Last year in the playoffs, Leonard Fournette averaged 4.7 yards a carry, had 300 yards in 4 games, 3 touchdowns. Also had 148 yards receiving and a touchdown.
Okay, I mean those are great numbers and everything. I mean not great, but we're talking football. I mean we're not.
But they also re-signed Fournette on a $4 million fully guaranteed 1-year contract, and Gio's got a $1 million veteran minimum deal, and he's 30 years old.
Like I said, Gio's got a spot. He's not gonna. He's not. I can't. So you guys really think Fournette's going to be the receiving back
for this team? Fournette's. I don't know if he'll be. I think Gio could carve out a role as the third down receiving back, whatever you want to call it, Brent. But I do think Fournette's going to be the primary back on first and second downs.
That it's possible, yeah. But I feel more confident that Gio has his role as a third down back.
Yeah, I could see Fournette playing some third. Like I think Fournette will get the most work of those 3 this year. I'll put it that way, and be the most productive. That's just because they leaned on him so heavily last year. He obviously has a pretty good rapport with Tom Brady based on how he did in the playoffs. He dealt with some injuries and things last year in the regular season. I don't know, Brent.
I guarantee you, Tom Brady said, "Get me another running back."
Guarantee
with the pass blocking.
Guess who?
Who
has had more catches in 1 year between Leonard Fournette and Gio?
Well, Fournette had that one great year with the Jaguars, so probably Fournette.
Fournette's career high is 76 catches 2 years that last year with the Jaguars. Gio's career high in catches is 56 his rookie season in 2013. After that, he hasn't been over 50.
But that's not what I'm not having.
I'm just saying that I don't think Gio is really that much better receiving back than Leonard Fournette.
Pass blocking. I mean, Brady's going to want Gio there ahead of Fournette for those important third down plays.
What's the fantasy stats you get for pass blocks? I'm missing it here.
Do I have Gio as a sleeper or something?
I know. We're getting into Gio too far. It's just fun to talk about.
He's taking stuff away from Fournette though. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I could see that to some degree, Brent. Fournette's going as the running back 31 right now, which doesn't feel like he's being significantly overdrafted to me is all. And I could see Gio having a role. I just think with Fournette's going to get some of that work just because leaving him on the field, unless it's an obvious passing situation, kind of makes the defense have to defend both the run and the pass versus Gio. You're probably not that worried about the run. You're more expecting it to be a pass. So I think it is. I'm not saying Gio won't have a role. I'm just saying I don't think Fournette's being that overdrafted compared to what I expect from him this year. And then I think Gio probably isn't going to reach your previous prediction of how many receptions you threw out there that one time. Which are you sticking to that, or are you revising that?
No, he'll get his 68 catches. That
68 catches.
I'm not betting or anything like that. I'm done doing that stuff. But
you are doubling down.
Yeah, he'll get it. He'll get a 68. So I mean, I gotta stick with it.
Gracious.
I gotta stick with it.
I respect a man who sticks to his guns. I just really wish we could get you in a bet about this.
You're a man with conviction. I'll give you that.
Trevin, who's your redraft fade?
Mine's Alvin Kamara. And I'm kind of down on all the Saints this year, but especially Alvin Kamara. He is right now running back 3 in ESPN redraft, and I'm taking him way after that. He didn't do well when Taysom Hill was in there. He had total yards of those 4 games of 45, 55, and 90 and 94. And he never got over 100 yards total with Hill as the starter last year. It takes away those catches he gets too. So I'm definitely not taking him at 3. And honestly, it'd probably have to be after 10 running back before I'd take him. So he's going to be gone before it's somewhere I'd take him.
He's my fade too. He's going behind only Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook right now, like you mentioned, Trevin, third overall in the ESPN redraft. He lost Drew Brees, one of the biggest check down to running back and screen game quarterbacks we have, and I think Kamara has a lot more risk than we're seeing baked into that third overall price. And like you mentioned, Trevin, Taysom Hill's quarterback, I think he's really in trouble. It's a small sample, of course, but in 4 games with Taysom Hill last year, he averaged 2.5 catches per game, compared to his 7.5 in his other 11 games. So a third of his normal receiving production in that small sample. And even if it's Jameis Winston, I just don't see him retaining the same number of targets, especially now that Michael Thomas is missing time. Kamara is the only weapon in that offense that scares anyone. So those defenses can pretty easily key in on him and try to take him away and then just force someone else to try to beat him, whether it's Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith or Adam Troutman or whoever. But I mean, you stop Kamara, you're probably beating the Saints this year. And I think it's also worth noting that he's never eclipsed 200 carries or 1,000 yards rushing in a season. Last season was his best as a rusher. He had 932 yards and 16 touchdowns. I think he's due for some regression there, too, without Brees and without Thomas to boost this offense up. So I just have a hard time seeing how he returns that third running back or third player overall value this year.
I don't know. It's with Winston, I do like. And it's kind of weird because if they have Taysom Hill as a starting quarterback, I think they're going to run the heck out of the ball with Murray, Kamara, and Hill. If Winston's the quarterback, Winston does still like to dump it off to his quarterback. So I was just looking at the stats from 2019 with Tampa Bay when Winston was a quarterback. Ronald Jones, he didn't play the whole year, but he had 31 catches. Dare O, I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry.
Ogunbowale, bro.
There you go. He had 35 catches, and Peyton Barber had 16 catches. So those running backs had a lot of receptions. So if Winston's the quarterback, if I can see Kamara getting some of those catches too. So.
Yeah, I mean, they just also had Mike Evans and other Chris Godwin and other receiving options there too for the defenses to try to worry about. And Saints just don't have that anymore, especially with Thomas going down. Trevin, any additional thoughts?
Nope, that's who I picked too, so I agree with you.
Brandon, I was just looking up quick. Weeks 11 through 14 last season were the ones that Taysom Hill was the starter. And if you look at who led the team in rushing those weeks, it was Latavius Murray, the first one. He had 124 yards, and then Kamara had 88, 50, and 54 the other 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know Kamara owners were not happy with Taysom Hill as quarterback because, I mean, he didn't have a very good 4 games with him, but they got to – if Hill's a quarterback, they really got to work Kamara in there, and they'll make sure he gets the ball somehow.
Yeah. That team could be really bad this year.
Yeah.
It sucks too because their defense is good.
Yeah, I think
Their
they had the number 2 defense in DVOA last year.
Their offensive line is pretty good. It's just, oh man, quarterback and wide receiver, not so much.
And they did lose some pieces on defense, right? Like everybody makes the comments about the cap isn't real because the Saints were able to get under it, but I think it did cost them a couple of players there that they weren't able to retain. So
yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, that was the NFC South. That was pretty contentious for us tonight. We had some back and forth. That was good. Let's do our question of the week. So the question of the week, we've reached the dog days of summer. The temperatures this week here in Kansas City, all in the upper 90s for highs. Tomorrow is supposed to be 100 for the high. Obviously, we can all agree the best way to spend a day when it's that hot is in the water, which brings me to our question of the week. Would you rather spend a day on the ocean, at a lake, in a pool, or on the river? What's your favorite of those 4 options?
Oh, man, here in Lincoln today, it was 105 heat index is insane at like 11 o'clock a.m. It's just been brutal here. So I'm with you. Mine, I would probably say a lake. There's not a lot better than sitting on a boat in the lake.
Well, first of all, the best way to spend a day like this is probably inside with the AC.
Indoor pool is Brent's answer.
But if I have to be outside, yes, definitely water. And I'm with Trevin on this. A lake would be nice. Lake is perfect for not really a day like this, but I mean, being outside is not perfect on a day like this, but if you had to be outside, then I'd pick lake.
Lakes are great because you can have the boat, and you can have, if you have a house that you're staying at or that you own, you can just have everything right there and just swim out, hang out there, or you can go on the boat and do all the water sports and all that stuff. But I feel like pool's kind of underrated because you get all of your drinks right there, and if you're at somebody's house, you can have the bathroom that's right there too if you need it, or the AC to go inside for a little bit. The water's a lot cleaner than probably most lakes.
You get out to go to the bathroom?
Well, bathroom in the pool,
sometimes.
Right?
Yeah. I guess I don't know if you guys poop in your pools, but I tend to not do that. You can have the snacks and everything right there, and they're nice and cold and all that stuff. And I don't know, it's just I think the pool doesn't get the respect it deserves sometimes. That's all. Especially if it's at your house. If it's like your pool, that's probably as good as it gets.
Yeah, you might have swayed me. There's not a lot less work at the lake if you do have your boat. It's awesome to be on, but there's a lot of work that goes involved, and you're standing out 100-degree heat, putting the boat in, taking the boat out type of thing. So pool, there's not a lot of work, especially if it's the pool outside your house. You can just get in, get out. So I wanted to choose ocean, but it's tough to just float on the ocean. And when it's this hot, sometimes I just want to be floating on it. So I'm with you. I'm going pool. You switched me.
I think those are the top 2 pretty easily for me too. I love the beach, but I'd probably take the other 2.
The river I do have to speak to. My dad built a river Jeep to go jeeping down the river, and that's pretty cool too. River wouldn't have been on my list except for the last 3 years when he's had that, and so that's pretty good now.
Huh. I mean, float trips are pretty solid too.
Yeah. So shout out Rivers.
Brandon, any thoughts on the other 3 options?
You have some good points about the pool, and Trevin has some good points about not choosing the lake, but I don't know. Doing that all that work in a hot day like this, that does suck, but maybe pool is the better choice. So I was thinking for the Olympics next time, Levi, next time you have that little party for the Olympics, you should get a pool in your backyard, and we can do some swimming games. Yeah. That'd be fun.
And it'll be February.
Yeah. It was
so even better
last time in the winter, so that'd be great. But no, I think if
winter ice skating events.
There you go. I think if you were super rich, the ocean would be sweet. If you just had your big yacht out there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you want to puke all day. If that's what's fun for you.
Yeah, that's definitely a real thing. All right, let's do a quick beer check and get out of here. I got a quirk this week. It's a seltzer from Boulevard. I drank a lot of beer this weekend, so I'm switching it up. I got blueberry, lemon, and lavender. Very classy. This is from Boulevard, a local one here in Kansas City.
What's it called again? I missed it. The flavor or whatever, not the brand, not the Boulevard.
Blueberry, lemon, and lavender.
Pretty out there.
Yeah. It's all right. I wouldn't drink a lot of them. Maybe 6-1.
All right.
I also have one from the Boulevard, from Levi's home, or not hometown, but Levi's place that he lives. But it's Space Camper Cosmic IPA. Pretty fancy looking. I don't like it that much, but maybe a 6.0.
I think you should do 6.8 just to match Gio's reception total this year.
Is yours? I thought Cork was a like a hard seltzer. Is that a beer?
No, it's a hard seltzer.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah,
I said I drank enough beer this weekend.
I got you. So I've had this one on here before. California Common by Imperium Brewing here in Lincoln. I had a couple more. I had one left of the 6-pack, so having that one. Supernova. I like it. 7.9. I don't remember last time I had it, what I gave it, but we're going 7.9 tonight.
6.2 is what you had it at before.
You don't have that written down, do you?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to be impressed.
Yeah.
You just got to say anything confidently, and we'll believe you, Brent. All right. Well, thanks for being part of the Fantasy Players Club, everybody. We'll have a new episode for you next week that'll live stream on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Until then, on behalf of Brent, the Geo lover, Hikus, and Trevin, the Lombardi Lenny lover, Olympic champion. This is Levi, also Olympic champion, Valentine. Wishing you a great week.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. I think I just accidentally copied over the show sheet after show from last week, unless one of you added that. So, is there anything you guys want to talk
about? What did FF Spaceman had that Twitter poll of things you could, like side bets that would affect trades or whatever? Did you guys see that?
Oh, that wasn't Spaceman. That was Todd.
Todd. What do you guys think about that?
On Twitter, if you're looking for it. I responded to him and I told him there are way too many other things you could bet that would not potentially impact the integrity of the league, like Brent going through a table. So I would rather see bets for something like that on side bets.
I never did see the results from that quiz or poll.
It was 30% in saying yes that
really?
Side bets with future draft picks are okay in dynasty leagues, which was the question, and 70% said no. Side bets with future draft picks involved are not okay in dynasty leagues.
So that's like saying like I bet you, Trevin, that I will have a better year than you this year in fantasy, and if that happens, I would get your first round pick,
or something like this, Brent. I bet you that Giovanni Bernard will not have 68 receptions this season, and you bet that he will. And if I win, I get your future first, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa.
Yeah, it's just not fair to the other owners, I don't think.
What if it was just swapping picks, like swapping first round picks, or the option to swap, or whatever? If
that's
better.
That's better, but I still don't think that you should really do that. I mean, you could, like,
why is that not any different though than just two guys trading? If it's a lopsided trade, like you can always say that hurts the integrity of the league because one guy is an idiot.
I think in that case, though, like if it's in good faith, that guy actually believes that he's getting equal or better value. In this case, you know you're not getting equal or better value, and it's nothing to do with the league or your strategy. It's just the dumb.
Yeah, but either one could hurt your league integrity argument.
Yeah, but one's actually fantasy football, like actually your judgment as an owner. The other one's just a dumb bet.
But it's also your judgment as an owner. You'd say that you think Giovanni Bernard is going to get 68 catches.
So where do
It's
you draw
still
the line?
fantasy relevant.
If it's football related, you're good with it. But what if we're like,
I think if it's has to do with football, I think I'm all right with it.
so what if it were just you get a first round pick?
But it's two guys agree on it. It's not like you just are handing me a
Yeah.
first round pick. We put a bet on the line and we both agreed on it.
But so you're okay with if Brent just lost that bet and gave me his first round pick for nothing?
Yeah, I'd say goddamn Brent's an idiot for making that bet. And then good bet, Levi. Just same as any other trade, really, in my head.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be my approach, but there's too many stupid people out there that would make these bets all the time.
Like, yeah. Singletary getting 1,000 yards. Hopefully,
So maybe you got to do it swaps just so it doesn't really will make it lopsided, I guess. Then you're not just getting a first round for not giving up anything. But
Yeah. If it were a later round pick, I probably wouldn't care so much. But
yeah,
first round picks are pretty valuable.
and as a commissioner, I mean, you might think it's okay. Like, I really don't care, but there's always one or two or three people that are not okay with it, and you don't want to mess up the league or anything like that. So you just gotta. Sometimes you have to do things where it just goes by the book.
Trevin, you've dealt with enough stuff as our league that you're commissioner, and you should know that the off the wall things like this are not likely to fly.
No, I'm just saying I wasn't totally against it. I'm not saying I'm really 100% for it, but you guys sounded pretty against it. I'd think about it. I think I'd be all right with it.
It would be fun, but I think we'd have to get everybody on board to do
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You'd hate for two or three, like you were saying, to be totally against it and ruin their fun because they hate it so much.
Or you could do something where if you have like a 12-team league, you pair everybody up and they all make a bet for something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't do a first round pick. Maybe you do a later round pick, the opportunity to swap.
Yeah.
Get everybody involved so they all have the same opportunity.
Good question, Todd.
Good question,
That was
Todd.
a good question.
All right.
Question for you guys. Levi, you have it.
Go ahead, Brent.
All right. Did you see Quinn Ewers?
Yeah.
He's a senior. He's going to be a senior this year in high school. He's leaning towards skipping his high school year to enroll at Ohio State so he can sign NIL deals worth nearly 7 figures. So Ohio State's quarterback room just got a little bit better, possibly.
So, question about that. I haven't looked into the details much. Is it that he would skip his senior year but not be eligible to play this fall? He'd just enroll in classes and be able to sign the deals? Or would he actually be able to play?
That's what I wasn't sure about because I've only seen the headline too, and I didn't know if that meant he's just not going to be in high school this year or if he can actually be on the team this year.
I don't know why he wouldn't be able to play.
Well, if he hasn't graduated from high school, I guess I don't know if he'd be eligible, but
Yeah, if he's good. I didn't know if maybe he's just not being in high school football so he can get some of these NIL deals.
Let me read through the story you guys discussed.
it would be a wild move.
What's Ohio State have right now for quarterbacks?
Like
They
2
got-
5-stars.
They got
Yeah,
CJ
so how's that
Stroud,
gonna-
who redshirted last year, is probably going to be the starter, and they got Kyle McCord, who was a 5-star last year.
That was my dog, by the way. Rosie, quiet.
That sounds like Jurassic Park.
I don't think there's any way he'd play this year, unless it was like mop-up duty. But
I don't know if he's as good as they say.
He's pretty highly rated.
we'd have a month to try to
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
everything out.
Looks like an idiot.
Most decorated most decorated quarterback prospect from Texas since Vince Young.
Have you seen his throwing motion, Trevin?
Yeah. You got that weird sidearm flick.
Yeah.
No, I saw some highlights. I thought it was just he was showing that he could do that or whatever, and then I saw more highlights. I was like, I guess that's just how he throws.
Yeah, it's different. I don't know. I mean, I guess we've seen short players succeed in the NFL now, like Kyler Murray, but you'd think that he might have a problem with that getting batted down by players, but who knows?
You'd bet people would try to change it.
Yeah.
So this story doesn't say anything about that, so I don't know. But just say he announced this a month ago that he's officially going to Ohio State, and we're doing our campus to Canton draft. What round do you think he would get drafted in?
First, probably.
It'd be up there in first or second, I was thinking.
Number one overall recruit.
It might have been a little, well, I don't know, because he's getting so much hype. But I was thinking about the guy who went to Oklahoma this year, Caleb Williams, and he went in the late third or early fourth. And the assumption is that he's going to take over next year. Maybe it would have been closer to that, but I just think Ewers is already getting so much hype that he might be even higher.
Guess who's offering him a deal for NIL? Holy Kombucha, a local kombucha place.
When are we going to start offering players NIL deals?
It includes cash and equity in the company.
Whoa.
Damn.
The smart companies are definitely taking advantage of it. Trevin, did you decide what athlete you want to get for your cameo yet?
I was going to talk to you guys about it. Do we just get probably a Husker guy, but I didn't know if maybe we get some of the walk-ons or whatever. I don't know. We're Husker fans.
Is it just for you or is it for the podcast? What do you want to do with it?
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Were you talking about this just a little bit ago or what?
Well, when it first came out that all the players could get paid, I told Trevin he could pick out whoever he wanted if there's a college football player on there that he wanted to get, because they're probably more in our price range. And since it's supposed to be for him, I told him I'd let him pick whoever he wanted. Can
you promote things on Cameo?
Well, they just record a video, so I think they'll usually.
Yeah, they just send you a recorded video, unless they're against what you're asking for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's up to you.
Well, I gave you the two options.
Bijan Robinson upped his price to $170.
All I know, I've been at runs a couple times ever since I've seen these Husker players. I downloaded the app and everything, so it's working.
You downloaded the Runza app?
Yep.
Nice.
All right, what do I message Warfield?
Are we done with the show? Shall we end this thing? Tune in next time to see who Trevin gets for his cameo. Have a good week, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah. I thought we were already done.